Hello everyone and welcome to what is by far the best game that was played in round 1 of this year's chess Olympiad, the FIDE chess Olympiad. It is Grandmaster Johan-Sebastian Christiansen representing Norway versus Lee Junhyeok representing South Korea. It is, as I've said, played on board 1 as Carlsen is sitting out the round 1. I guess they are saving him for some tougher matches, and he also announced that he will be missing in round 2. But that is besides the point. This game is, I believe, the best game. I'm not going to call it the game of the Olympiad just yet because it's only round 1, but it will be very, very hard to top this one. This is something we would see in a Morphy game or in a Tal game or in a Nejmedinov game. This is absolutely sensational. So let's check it out. Johan-Sebastian Christiansen with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c5 by Lee. We have knight to f3, pawn to d6, and pawn to d4. We have captures, and knight to f6, knight to c3, and pawn to a6. This is the Najdorf Sicilian, and I always like to say when this position is on the board that any move you make for white is a viable option. Like literally any move you make here has some sort of a name, and it can be played. For example, rook to g1 here is only the 11th most popular continuation, but it's been played by everyone. Magnus played it, Fabi played it, Ivanchuk played it, I don't know, Giri played it, MBL played it, everyone played it. I play it in my rapid games. It's a wonderful move, and black has to be very, very careful if rook to g1 is played. But here we have bishop to g5, and this is the top move against the Najdorf even today. That is, usually it's met with pawn to e6, then white goes pawn to f4, for example, queen to b6, a3. Of course, b2 cannot be captured because you blunder your queen, but after bishop g5, we have knight b to d7. Okay, bishop to c4, we have pawn to e6, and now queen to e2. Again, you could, let's say, what is black's idea with this setup? Black's idea is that, let's say, if white castles, you're going to play pawn to h6, and once the bishop moves, you're going to land a knight on c5, you're going to put pressure on the c4 pawn, and white has to decide whether to bring the bishop back to d3, to play f3, or something like that, and it's not considered best for white. So instead, after e6, we have queen to e2, and now pawn to b5, attacking the bishop, and here, it's very important to look at the situation on the clock. Johan-Sebastian, an hour and 21 minutes, Lee with an hour and 30 minutes, which is basically what you start with. He hasn't spent any time. And here, Johan-Sebastian spends some 10 minutes on retreating the bishop to b3. Most likely, he was calculating bishop captures on e6. And it's a really wonderful line where, okay, what do you play with the queen? The problem is you can't play queen to e7 because knight d5 and you just resign here. If you capture, of course, knight c7 check and you pick up the queen. The problem is, after you attack the queen can come to a5. And now it's, well, really anyone's game. White can castle queenside. Let's say you go knight to e5, attack the bishop. White can play bishop captures on f6, bishop captures on e6, and after bishop captures on e5, d captures, you get this position, and it's considered to be fairly equal. Queen can come to, for example, h5, you can play bishop f7, queen captures on e5, bishop d7, and even if knight to d5, you will simply capture it. Captures, and now black will castle, and it's a perfectly fine position. Queen captures on e7, black gives back the piece, queen captures on a2. It can be played, and it really doesn't give white any advantage. But if you don't know it by heart, of course, you calculate, and that's why I believe Johan-Sebastian spent 10 minutes here. So he retreats bishop to b3, but now after queen to c7, he goes queenside castles, and queenside castles is a new move. There is a game where a3 was played. It is now, as of move 10, that we have a completely new game, and it can be played many different ways, but b4 is by far the best move, as it often is, and now it is countered by a move that you guys are expecting when we face the Najdorf. Now, no one's gonna, look at you funny or call you names if you play knight to a4 or knight to b1. Okay, knight to b1 is a little bit weird, but if you've ever seen someone attack the Najdorf, you know knight to d5 is the move, and that is exactly what Johan-Sebastian plays, and you have to capture the knight with the pawn, otherwise you just get destroyed. So e captures on d5, e captures on d5, opening up a discovery, and bishop to e7. And now How do you continue here? There are many moves you could consider. So, okay, bringing the rook to e1, and it's also very important which rook comes to e1. On the other hand, knight to c6 also looks like a very nice idea. You're threatening checkmate. But now knight e5, and now after, let's say, knight captures and d captures d6, attacking the queen and the bishop, bishop captures, g captures, and now queen to f3, attacking the rook. It seems like white has all the compensation needed. The problem is black has this very annoying defense of castles and sacrificing the rook, but not really, because after queen captures, bishop to b7, attacking the queen, bishop a7, and bishop to c5, there's no other move than to give up the rook. Rook to d7, so you can capture the bishop on c5. Queen captures, and you have this position. The material is equal. Bishops are of the same color. White is a little bit better, we could say, because of the ruined black's king side, but all in all, it's nothing really to worry about. So knight to c6, while visually very aesthetically pleasing, it is not maybe the best way to go. It is the top move recommended by the engine, but sometimes even the top move recommended by the engine is not enough if you are playing for a win. So here, rook d to e1. Also, you could consider rook h to e1. It's very hard to understand why rook d to e1 was played, but it's I often say you have to be a very, very strong player to understand why the better move was not played. So rook d to e1, I imagine maybe you want to start advancing the h pawn, so maybe the rook will be useful there. Maybe there will be some rook lift happening, and also it allows black to make a mistake. And that's exactly what happened here. Rook d to e1 should be met with knight to e5. It's a very complicated line, but I will show it because it's important to understand why this game is so strong. Pawn to f4, knight to g6. Okay, you have to defend the bishop here. Bishop to a4 check, you will play king to f8. Just, you don't care. Bishop captures on f6. Now, you cannot capture with the bishop, otherwise queen to e8 will be checkmate. So g captures. Now, pawn to g4, and after bishop to d7, black defended very nicely. Bishop to c6, you're going to play captures. And, okay, there's a lot of pressure here, but the bishop is nicely defended by the queen, king, and by the knight. And if anything, black is the one that's better here. I mean, you're up a piece. So that's why after rook d to e1, you have to play knight to e5, but this is where Johan-Sebastian gets his chance. We have castles kingside, castling to safety at the expense of a bishop, but it seems like you can't really capture it as rook to e8 is coming. But that's exactly why this game is so great. Queen captures on e7, we have rook to e8, and now well, I imagine you know what's coming, but just in case you don't, feel free to pause the video and try to find the only winning move for white here while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on going for the obvious move. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen captures on e8. Of course, you found this because that's literally the reason why queen captures on e7 was played in the first place. We have knight captures on e8 and the rook captures on e8 with check. Knight to f8, and now okay, it seems like white has a great position, but how do you actually make progress here? We have rook h to e1, doubling up on the e file, and Lee plays bishop to b7. Of course, you want to get rid of as many attackers as possible. So how do you continue? Okay, rook captures on a8, bishop captures on a8, and now rook to e8. And while the position is very nice, it's still unclear how white makes progress here. We have pawn to h6 attacking the bishop, and now really a tall move, knight to e6. Beautiful, beautiful move that allows black to capture the knight, to capture the bishop, to play literally whatever, but nothing saves black. And just to give you an example, if you capture the knight, which is okay, it seems like a move you want to play, d captures on e6, now preparing to open up the bishop with check, and once you play pawn to d5, blocking the bishop, still pawn to e7 is just unstoppable. You have to capture on e7, otherwise pawn captures brings a queen into the game. So queen captures, and after bishop captures, king f7, attacking rook and bishop. Rook captures on a8, and now after king captures on e7, you'll play bishop captures on d5, and white is just up a full rook, of course, completely winning. So that's why after knight to e6, queen to b7 was played. Of course, you cannot capture the bishop, your queen is hanging, so that's that's a huge problem. So queen to b7, now rook captures on f8 with check, king to h7, and now look at this. Still, two of your pieces are hanging, not a problem. Bishop to c4. It's time to get the light square bishop into the attack, and there is no defending this. And what happens if you capture the knight, or what happens if you capture the bishop is basically why I love chess, and I will show you both lines. F captures on e6 is met with bishop to d3 check, and now after g6 there's bishop to f6, threatening rook to h8 checkmate, and now after queen to g7 bishop captures. You have to give up the queen, there is nothing else, and now after rook captures on a8, white is just up a bishop and the rook. We don't even have an expression for when white is up so much material, so I mean, it is just too much. And on the other hand, after bishop to c4, if you don't capture the knight, if you capture the bishop, it's even worse. Bishop to d3 check, pawn to g6, and now how do we continue here? Is there a continuation? Yes, rook captures on f7. Temporarily you sacrifice the rook for this knight captures on g5 fork. Queen captures, knight captures on g5 with check, king to g8 you capture on f7, and after king captures, just bishop captures on a6. Let's say bishop captures on d5, you defend the pawn, and the white is up 3 pawns, of course, an easily winning endgame. So that's why after bishop to c4, there's no move that can be played here. Lee tried king to g6, but now he runs into the very unpleasant bishop to d3 check. And again, you could defend it like with pawn to f5, just bishop captures on f5, and after king h5, g4 is checkmate. So he starts running with his king to h5, and now we have a repetition for one move. Bishop e2 check, king g6, and bishop to d3 check, king to h5. Now Johan-Sebastian figures out the checkmate. It's actually a mate in 3. Pawn to h3 was played, and there is no defense against king pawn to g4 checkmate. Or you could capture the knight, so king captures on g5 becomes an option, but even that does not help you. We have f captures on e6, and now, well, we want to play g4 checkmate, but king captures on g5 will save black, so we simply defend the bishop. Pawn to f4. Now the black king has no squares, and there is no defense against bishop to g4. Literally, any move that black makes here, doesn't matter what the move is, queen captures on d5, pawn to g4 will be checkmate. So this is, like I said, I'm not going to call it the game of the Olympiad because it's only round 1, but I will need a lot of convincing, for some other game to be better than this one. This is, it takes two to create a masterpiece here. Junhyeok played a great game, but in this moment where Johan-Sebastian maybe overpushed a little bit when he allowed the stubborn defense of knight to e5 after the sacrifice, that was the moment where he could have had a chance to defend. But after castles, this was just, it was executed immaculately. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Do you agree? Is this it's definitely the game of the round. We'll see. After all of the rounds have been played, then maybe another game takes its place, and I will rename it to the game of the Olympiad. But for now, let's leave it at this. Just enjoy your day. Maybe you've learned a thing or two about how to attack the Najdorf. Sometimes the sacrifice occurs on d5, sometimes on f5, sometimes many different ways. But this was definitely a good day, and I am very happy that Magnus Carlsen decided to skip round 1. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Ren Songhua, Joseph Treat, GuernseyChessFestival.org.gg, Dr. Captain Collins, and Professor Hexagon for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And remember what our good friend Paul Morphy said, help your pieces so they can help you. See you soon.